As the Copa America approaches its conclusion, there is one giant that crashed out of the tournament early, with much of the footballing world wondering what on earth has happened. Brazil are one of football's royalty, with a hefty history and affiliation to the game, which has seen them be crowned World Cup winners on 5 occasions and Copa America champions 9 times. But at this year's competition, Brazil limped out in the quarter-final stages on penalties to Marcelo Bielsa's Uruguay in a match they never really looked like winning, marking the 7th time they've been dumped from a tournament held outside Brazil before the semi-finals since 2009. It's fair to say that recent times have not been kind to them. So, was this a surprise? Well, in one sense, no. Heading into the tournament, there was little expectation that Brazil would win their 10th title, including from legend Ronaldinho, who said he would not be watching any of the games, with the side not particularly watchable. But why? Well, one key reason is that they failed to find their way after the departure of Tite, who was moved on after back-to-back quarter-final exits in the World Cup of Russia and Qatar. Following this point, there have been failings at the Federation, who among other mishaps and internal politics spent much of their time after Qatar waiting around for Real Madrid coach Carlo Ancelotti to join, something that has hindered any real stability or progress for Brazil. We've seen Ramon Menezes, the coach of the under-20s, drafted in. While joining on an interim basis, it was nonetheless a disappointing spell, with a run of lacklustre friendly matches against Morocco, Guinea and Senegal. Then it was the turn of Fernando Diniz, a well-regarded Brazilian manager with a unique but exciting tactical style, but one that failed to fully come to fruition with the national side, taking charge of just 6 games where they won twice, drew once and lost 3 games in succession to main South American rivals. By the time of his departure, Brazil were in a perilous 6th place in World Cup qualifying, just on the edge of missing out. The latest of the managers has been Dorival Jr., a seasoned manager in the domestic leagues and one that showed glimpses of succeeding early on, with 2 positive friendlies against Spain and England using a reformed squad which included exciting young talents such as Endrick. But in terms of management, Dorival has had some of his weaknesses exposed, including a lack of confidence and authority on the touchline, something that was most poignantly demonstrated before the penalties against Uruguay, when he was seen struggling to get a word in as Marquinhos seemingly picked the takers. Another key reason was the absence of starman Neymar. Despite being 32 now, the Brazilian remains an integral part to the national team setup. When he tore his ACL in an October World Cup qualification match which ruled him out for a year almost immediately, it was a devastating blow for Brazil, with players and fans alike coming to recognise and rely on him to lead the green and yellow with his difference-making performances on the pitch. His absence was clearly felt in the Copa America, with a string of lacklustre performances by Brazil that lacked any of the Jogo Bonito we've known and loved, and a lack of dynamism and attacking intent. But on the other hand, there is some level of surprise at just how poor Brazil were. Despite these points noted, they still had a squad with some of the best talent in world football. And while they were not favourites to win the tournament, many expected these star players to at least put on a solid showing. Yet it was far from that. They started with a 0-0 against Costa Rica, managing just 3 shots on target. While they did follow this up with a win against Paraguay, the difficulties returned as they were held to a 1-1 draw against Colombia, before the disappointment against Uruguay, who even had a player sent off during the game. Vinicius Jr., who has enjoyed a fantastic season with Real Madrid and was prior to the tournament seen as the favourite for the Ballon d'Or, failed to impress alongside his teammate Rodrigo. Meanwhile, for the prodigy wonder kid Endrick, he barely got a kick in the first 3 games, before being thrusted into the quarter-final where he struggled to make an impact against a robust Uruguayan defence. So, what does the future hold for Brazil? Well, Dorival accepted full responsibility for the failure, as he should, but it's not a case of firing the manager. He had little time to shape the squad and handled an uncharacteristically poor squad. This was a tournament that they were not expected to win, and although the levels of results showed just how much work he has to do, Dorival should be given a chance to show what he can do. Where he goes now, though, will be interesting, as he looks to balance a squad with, yes, some of the best talent in world football, but also filling the gaps where experienced players who have come to be relied upon are way past their best now.